For a one-on-one private session with me, you can find the link in the description box for the channel. It's oneminutemanifesting.com/services. Hey boo, listen to this quote from the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. Especially if you are struggling with the feeling of holding on to your state, your ideal reality, the ideal real personality that you are wanting so much to feel, to be, to inhabit, to enjoy, and it's not fully kicking in for you. Here's what Pema Chodron says. As human beings, we are as impermanent as everything else is. Every cell in the body is continuously changing. Thoughts and emotions rise and fall away unceasingly. When we're thinking that we're incompetent or that we're hopeless, what are we basing it on? On this fleeting moment, on yesterday's success or failure? We cling. This is now, just get ready here, because this is the most important sentence in this entire quote. We cling to a fixed idea of who we are, and it cripples us. Listen to that again. This is really cool. We cling to a fixed idea of who we are, and it cripples us. So if you're not in your head at this point going, yeah, I that's me, put that's me in the comments too. I love to see how you're feeling about this, and by the end of this video, by the way, we'll get right to the bottom of how to overcome this feeling of getting stuck in who we think we are. Because who we think we are, a lot of us are tying, many times you're tying in a backstory to it. So if it is very much what she says here, what Pema Chodron says, that we're clinging to the person we thought we were yesterday. And remembering that everything is one moment, everything is now, everything is the now. So even the idea of who we are yesterday is not it's not a continuing reality unless we keep trying to make it into one. It's not a real reality, the real reality, unless you are trying to make it into one. And then it's like it's a struggle to become the new person you want to be, because so much of your feelings, your ego, there's the ego kicking in, of your belief about yourself, all those self-beliefs, and all the ideas and imposed beliefs, or ideas we have cobbled together based on what our family story was, based on what we believe about ourselves that came through what our parents said, or what teachers said, or what other grown-ups said, or even other people, your siblings or other relatives your own age were telling you about you, just the way they were reacting to you, and somehow or other we edit all that into our own inner video that we're constantly replaying, that we're constantly remixing with whatever is going on at the moment, so that when we have a failure, it may be bringing to mind that old idea of being slow, or being told you were slow, and not being able to be allowed to be slow, because slow is how you were able to understand things, or that you had a longer learning curve than other students. But that was okay, because that was how you processed information. It needed more time. And yet society saying, no, it has to be like fast and instant and faster than AI. It's like, wait a minute. But that's the belief that we got stuck around with, is it has to be, it's got to be, everything's changing so fast, and then you feel you can't keep up. So anytime there's a difficulty in what you're trying to learn, you feel like a failure. You feel like an imposter, wanting to be at another place in your reality, in your desired reality, in the state you want to dream big about. Because Neville Goddard was always, and hang in there because you're going to get the whole picture. Neville Goddard was always talking about dream bigger than the best that you know. And a lot of times we're afraid even to dream big, to be big thinkers, or even out of the box thinkers. We think only certain people, say like a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates, was an out of the box thinker, or a Mark Zuckerberg was an out of the box thinker. But really, or for what it's worth, Elon Musk, out of the box thinker. But anybody can be an out of the box thinker by simply deciding to push what you want to the next level, to push what you want beyond what your limited thinking mind is telling you all the time is possible. So consider when someone has imposter syndrome, and if that's you, put imposter syndrome, or just imposter or syndrome in the comments, because it's that sense of it's the insecurity behind it, of knowing that there's something greater that you have in you to be, and that you are that powerful. You are that power. You are God, the operant power. And still feeling like a fake or a fraud, like you're putting something over on somebody. But why have that constantly holding you back? Because when we're walking around feeling like we're trying to put something over on somebody, when it's not that at all, but that we're going to be thought of like that. Oh, she's a phony. Oh, she's going to, she couldn't possibly have that. Or he's just an imposter. No, nobody's thinking that about you except you. So this is what is crippling. This is what hobbles you in terms of wanting to grow your desire from what your limited mind is saying. Yeah, that's okay at this much. You want to go this much, and why should you? Who would want that from you? Who would trust that from you? Who would appreciate that from you? You don't have the qualities, you don't have the certification, you don't have the degree, you don't have and this is what goes on all the time. This is what goes on all the time. The inner says, oh, you can't possibly. But really, consider that you are all there is. There is only you in all this universe. So there's no one to tell you that limited idea you have about yourself doesn't deserve to have their desire, or to be that ideal person who has the relationship, who has the great health, who has the income. Anything is possible for anybody. Anything. And that is because if you allow, when you let go of the idea of being a fixed personality, a fixed idea. This is what Pema Chodron says so wonderfully when she says we cling to a fixed idea of who we are and it cripples us. So what can happen? It's only taking away from what you have the more than enough capacity to believe that you can be, or to decide now that's what you are choosing. So even in the face of having imposter syndrome, or believing yourself to be slow, or having a feeling of being abandoned. And I've had that experience of feeling abandoned in certain circumstances because of a early childhood trauma. And I know it shows up sometimes, and I just look at it and just like, I don't care. I don't care. So it's really looking at it and saying, I don't care. Even if I believe that I am an imposter or fraud, I don't care. I still am worthy and deserving of my desire. I am worthy and deserving of seeing it become fulfilled now. And if you see it as receiving it in prayer, or decreeing it in prayer, telling God, demanding of God, give this to me. And that's how it works. It's not hoping or asking or wondering if. It's knowing that once you have asked and believed, you shall receive. This is how it's stated in the Bible. It's yours, and you can claim it. So instead of hanging desperately onto a fixed idea, because when you have that limited idea, that's not a life raft. That's a sinking ship. That's what holds you back from giving yourself every kind of abundance that you deserve. That you have the abundance of knowing intuitively that you can have it. That even if you feel like you have a limited ability, you can have it. Despite the appearance that you're feeling, it's despite appearances, despite fixed ideas. And the difference between feeling cemented in place and when you let go of that, it's so different. It's so vast. And that's where the liberation comes from, is letting go that you have this, that you have a fixed idea that you came from these circumstances and that everything is difficult for you because of that. There's no because of, unless that's the value you put on it. And you just simply change that. Because this is the personality this is the reality, the personal reality that your real personality is claiming, your authentic self. Even if you feel that imposter syndrome, fake and fraud and phony and all that, even so, your authentic self is there. And it may take some getting used to that idea, and you may fall in and out of that, feeling it and then not believing it, and that's okay. That's okay. There's no time limit. You have it. It's knowing that. And that's why Neville Goddard also said, and I don't have the exact quote today, but it's along the lines that the reason you don't have your desire is your refusal to see it. And that's because you've asked for it, you have it, but if you're refusing to maintain that or hold that larger sense of yourself as deserving of it, that's really another form of resistance. I've talked a bit about resistance to having your desire, to manifesting. I've talked about that in a few videos now, and you can find them on the channel. They're very recent, and this too is a form of resistance when you're feeling, and it's also what I've also referred to as being locked out of, or locking yourself out of your desire. It's part of that too. That all would come under the big heading of resistance. Is like locking yourself out because you don't feel you're deserving or doubting. And these are all forms of doubt and disbelief and all of that you're feeling it's impossible because of what's happened in the past. But it's that continuous, that's why in the entrepreneur world, people will say it's about falling down nine times and getting up 10. Is to keep going, because the inner knowing that you have is saying you have this. And that's, again, it's what I was saying, is Neville talked about it's the refusal to see it. And you say, well, why would I be refusing? I want to see this so badly. So maybe the way he would say refusal is more like disconnecting from it or feeling undeserving. Those are all forms of refusing in a way. There's just different ways it can appear. If you think about it a second, that if you're saying, it's because you're so filled with doubt and self judgment, that the imposter feeling, that is another way of refusing to see it. It's like saying I couldn't possibly have this. And that's why when we start having the desire and then we're looking around for it, say, well, where is it? I don't trust that it's coming. That's another one that comes up. I can't trust. But that's because you're not trusting in you. You're not trusting in yourself. And that brings up, that also is the refusal. It's like saying, I'm not worthy of it. I doubt that I could have it. I can't trust God. Not trusting God isn't God that you're not trusting. It's not trusting yourself. God is love. God is trust. Your relationship with God is trusting that God will give you what you want, and God will give it to you every time. And God will give you the appearing lack of something, because that's basically, if you feel like a fraud and a phony, that's basically what you're asking for, is the lack of something. Or something being taken away from you. So if you can relax into the feeling and leave behind the idea of feeling tied up or crippled by what you believe yourself to be, and that no matter what, that desire is coming into your reality, even despite, you can say despite my own resistance. Despite my own resistance, my desire is here. Despite my just right now, that I'm not seeing it, even though I'm not seeing it, it is here. And trusting, and that does connect you again to your having it. It connects you again to God. God speaks to us through the medium of our desires. That's another Neville quote right there. He was nailing it. He was always nailing it, and he understood how we could be resistant, how we could be ornery around the idea of it. We have the idea to have it, and then at the same time we're turning away from it. So allow yourself to turn around, even if it's in little bitty degrees, and you'll see that you have it. It's noticing it's there, and that you have it. Whether it's to do with money, because you're not seeing it right now in your bank account doesn't mean it's non-existent. Again, that's a worldly appearance. That's just an appearance. It's part of the external illusion. And that's what, by turning your back on it, you become free of that, because you're making the U-turn, Y-O-U-turn, within. That's the only direction to go in, is away from the appearances. And you don't have to become a hermit. It's not necessary to go up into a mountaintop or sit in a cave. You don't have to be a hermit. I mean, unless you want to be a hermit, but you don't have to be a hermit. You live your life. And this is I'm peppering everything with Neville, because it keeps coming to mind. He always said it's exactly the thing. But he said that sublime spirit of determination. And I always love when he says sublime, because it's very elevated. It's very elevated. That is the real feeling to play with. That comes with that feeling of what Bashar talks about as your highest excitement. So that doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be something very immediate, very intimate. Your highest excitement could be watering the plants on your windowsill, and then you see where that goes to. And maybe it takes you to something else. Maybe it's having lunch with somebody that's a good friend. It can take you to something else. And it doesn't have to be the most daring, biggest thing. It's a very simple thing. So just allow these things to come into your life, and gradually you're going to feel more of a connection to the enjoyment of experiences that open you up to having your desire and being the unlimited you that you are meant to be. Love you so much, Boo, and I will see you in the next video.